Dr. Hannah Kim pressed her palm against the cold viewport, watching the massive transport vessel Galactic Haven slowly dock with medical station healing light. The ship's hull bore scorch marks and plasma burns from the ongoing war in the Proxima sector. She could already see the medical pods being prepared for transfer through the reinforced glass. "Another batch incoming, Doctor," called Nurse Kyung Choi from behind her. The young woman's voice carried exhaustion despite her best efforts to hide it. 3 months of non-stop medical operations had worn them all thin, but none of them complained. This was what they lived for. Hannah turned away from the viewport and nodded. "How many this time?" 47 critical cases, 62 moderate injuries, and about 100 walking wounded, Kyung replied, checking her datapad. "Mix of species, Altarian soldiers, Kithara civilians caught in crossfire, even some Nexari engineers who got too close to a plasma mine." The medical station hummed with constant activity. Healing Light was one of 12 human-operated medical facilities scattered across the war-torn galaxy, but it was the largest, built like a massive wheel spinning slowly in space. Its outer rings housed patient wards, while the inner core contained the most advanced surgical suites known to galactic civilization. Commander Ji-hoon Park's voice crackled over the intercom. "All medical teams to stations. We've got incoming wounded from the Kepler-7 battle. ETA 15 minutes. Hannah walked briskly through the curved corridors, past rooms where alien beings of every conceivable shape and size received treatment. In Ward 7, a massive Gorlakian warrior, nearly 3 meters tall with rock-like skin, was having his arm reattached by Dr. Mina Lee. The creature's natural healing factor was impressive, but human medical technology made the process seamless. "Easy there, big guy," Dr. Lee spoke softly to her patient. "Your arm will be stronger than before once the biomesh integrates with your tissue." The Gorlakian's golden eyes looked at her with something approaching reverence. His translator device converted his rumbling speech into galactic standard. "Human healers are blessing to galaxy. My children will know your kindness." This scene repeated throughout the station. Humans had earned their reputation across the stars not through conquest or trade, but through their unmatched ability to preserve life. Every major conflict in the last century had seen human medical corps rushing to aid zones, treating anyone who needed help regardless of species, faction, or ability to pay. In the trauma bay, the chaos was controlled and precise. Nurse Kyung worked alongside Dr. Hyun Seo, their hands moving with practiced efficiency as they stabilized a wounded Vexarian pilot. The creature's blue blood had a different oxygen-carrying capacity than most species, requiring specialized treatment that only humans had mastered. "Vitals stabilizing," Dr. Seo announced. "The neural pathway damage is extensive, but we can repair it. He'll fly again." The Vexarian's compound eyes flickered with gratitude before the anesthesia took hold. Captain Seok Jang stood on the bridge of the escort ship Hippocrates, watching the steady stream of medical transports arriving and departing. His vessel was one of 3 assigned to protect Healing Light, though he often wondered if they were necessary. The ship's weapons systems were top-tier human technology, plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and defensive barriers that could withstand most attacks. But who would target a medical facility? "Captain, we're detecting a large fleet movement in Sector 9, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Do-Yun Nam. "Military vessels?" Seok asked, not particularly concerned. "Mixed signatures. Looks like refugee transports with escort fighters. Probably civilians fleeing the latest offensive," Seok nodded. "Another day, another group of displaced beings seeking safety." The human medical stations had become unofficial sanctuaries, neutral ground where even sworn enemies could receive treatment side by side. Back in the station's central hub, Commander Park coordinated the complex logistics of running a medical facility in a war zone. His screens showed supply levels, personnel assignments, and incoming patient manifests. The diversity was staggering. Crystalline beings who required specialized atmospheric chambers, gaseous entities that needed electromagnetic containment, and dozens of carbon-based species with unique physiological requirements. "Dr. Kim," he called out as Hannah passed his station. "The Terran Medical Council wants our monthly report. They're particularly interested in the new neural interface techniques you've been developing. Hana paused. Tell them the success rate is 94% across 17 different neural architectures. We're making real progress in cross-species compatibility. What made humans unique wasn't just their medical technology. It was their obsessive dedication to understanding how life worked. Every human medical professional spent years studying xenobiology, learning the intricate details of how different species functioned. They memorized genetic structures, metabolic processes, and nervous system configurations with an intensity that other species found remarkable. Dr. Mina Lee emerged from surgery, pulling off her gloves with satisfaction. The Thrakarian ambassador is stable. Her species' redundant organ systems made the procedure tricky, but she'll make a full recovery. Nurse Kyung smiled as she updated patient records. The galaxy is lucky to have us. Through the viewport, stars twinkled peacefully, giving no hint of the violence raging between them. Medical Station Healing Light continued its slow rotation, a beacon of hope in the darkness, staffed by humans who had chosen to dedicate their lives to preserving others, regardless of the cost. The first sign of trouble came from Lieutenant Do-Hyun Nam at his sensor station aboard the Hippocrates. His face went pale as he stared at his displays, running the scans 3 times to make sure he wasn't seeing ghosts. Captain Jang, his voice cracked slightly. We have massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace, multiple contacts. Bearing directly for the station. Captain Seok-Jang moved swiftly to the tactical display. What he saw made his blood run cold. 12 Kithara dreadnoughts materialized in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. These weren't patrol ships or scouts. These were ships of the line, built for one purpose: total destruction. Red alert, Seok commanded. All hands to battle stations. Signal the other escorts immediately. The Kithara vessels were massive, each one stretching nearly 2 kilometers in length. Their hulls were a deep crimson color that seemed to absorb light, making them appear like wounds in space itself. Weapon ports glowed with contained energy as targeting systems locked onto Medical Station Healing Light. On the station, alarms began wailing throughout the corridors. Dr. Hana Kim looked up from her patient, a young Zentari child who had been caught in a bombing raid. The little one's large silver eyes reflected fear as the warning lights bathed everything in. "Red, what's happening?" asked Dr. Mina Lee, her hands still deep in surgery on a wounded Altarian soldier. Commander Ji-Hoon Park's voice echoed through the emergency speakers, trying to stay calm but unable to hide his concern. "All medical personnel, we have hostile ships approaching. This is likely a mistake or misunderstanding. Continue your operations. Security teams to defensive positions." In the children's ward, Dr. Yuna Shin was performing delicate neural surgery on a young Vexarian whose family had been killed in the fighting. The child was barely 3 years old in galactic standard, with the characteristic blue-tinted skin and large compound eyes of her species. The surgery was critical. Without it, the trauma to her nervous system would leave her paralyzed. "Almost finished, little one," Dr. Shin whispered, her instruments working with microscopic precision. "You're going to be okay." The Kithara fleet commander, Admiral Vextar, stood on the bridge of his flagship Crimson Dominance. His species was known for their aggressive nature, tall, muscular beings with gray skin and multiple arms that ended in sharp claws. Their culture valued strength above all else, viewing mercy as weakness. "Open a channel to all frequencies," he ordered, his voice a harsh rasp. "Galaxy-wide broadcast." Across known space, every communication device suddenly crackled to life. On trade. Stations, military vessels, civilian colonies, and diplomatic outposts, Admiral Vextar's image appeared. His cold, predatory eyes stared out from screens as he delivered his message. "I am Admiral Vexitar of the Kythera Dominion. Too long have these human medical facilities aided our enemies, patching up warriors to fight us again. Today, we demonstrate that there is no sanctuary for those who oppose us. Medical facilities are legitimate military targets. Let this be a lesson to all who would dare heal our foes." The transmission cut, and across the galaxy, beings watched in horrified silence as the Kithara fleet opened fire. The first plasma beam struck the children's ward with devastating force. The reinforced hull held for exactly 2.3 seconds before the concentrated energy tore through layers of protective plating like paper. The ward where Dr. Yuna Shin was operating disappeared in a brilliant flash of superheated gas and twisted metal. Captain Zhang screamed orders as the Hippocrates and her sister ships rushed to intercept. All weapons, fire at will, focus on their lead ships. The human escort vessels were fast and well armed, but they were designed for patrol duty, not fleet engagement. Their plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes struck the Kithara dreadnoughts, but the energy dissipated harmlessly against military-grade shielding. "Our weapons aren't penetrating their shields," Lieutenant Nam reported, as another volley from there. Ships splashed uselessly against the enemy hulls. On the station, chaos erupted as entire sections were vaporized. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, trying to contain the damage, but the Kithara were targeting specific areas, the trauma centers. The surgical suites, the patient wards. Dr. Hana Kim refused to leave her young patient despite the alarms. "I'm not abandoning her," she told Nurse Kyung Choi as another explosion rocked the station. "Get the others to the evacuation pods." Commander Park stood in the command center, watching helplessly as his life's work was systematically destroyed. He activated the emergency beacon, knowing it was probably too late but hoping someone would survive to tell the story. "This is Commander Ji-hoon Park of Medical Station Healing Light," he spoke into the transmitter, his voice steady despite the carnage around him. "We are under attack by Kithara forces. They are specifically targeting medical facilities and patients. Dr. Kim is trapped in Surgery Bay 7 with critical patients. We will not abandon those in our care." The transmission was being recorded by automated systems throughout the galaxy, capturing every word as plasma fire continued to tear through the station. Dr. Mina Lee worked frantically to stabilize her. Patients for emergency transport, but the Kithara weren't giving them time. Another direct hit shook the station so violently that surgical instruments went flying. "The hull is buckling," someone shouted over the noise. "We're losing atmospheric integrity in sections 4 through 9. In those final moments, the galaxy watched as 3,000 human medical personnel and their patients faced their end. Not a single human abandoned their post. Doctors continued operating even as sections around them were destroyed. Nurses stayed with patients who couldn't be moved. Medical technicians kept life support systems running until the very end. The destruction was complete in 20 minutes. Medical Station Healing Light, once a symbol of hope and healing, became an expanding cloud of debris and frozen atmosphere. The Kithara fleet reformed and jumped back into hyperspace, leaving only silence where thousands of voices had been moments before. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the Healing Light massacre. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the massive chamber on Nexus Prime, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, roars, telepathic waves, and translated speech. The holographic display in the center still showed the debris field where the medical station had been. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zentari Federation slammed his crystalline appendage on his speaking platform. "This is an outrage. The Kithara have violated every treaty, every law of civilized warfare. We demand immediate action." Similar cries erupted throughout the chamber. The Gorlakian representatives' stone-like features twisted with anger. The Vexarian delegates' compound eyes flashed with rage. Even the normally peaceful Altarians were calling for military response, but the human delegation sat in complete silence. Ambassador Yuki Tanaka of Earth remained motionless in her seat, her face an unreadable mask. Beside her, military liaison. General Sungjin Kwon stared straight ahead, his hands folded calmly in his lap. The silence from the human section was so profound that gradually the other species began to notice. "Ambassador Tanaka," called Council Speaker Vorthak, his tentacles writhing with concern. "Earth has suffered the greatest loss in this tragedy. What is Terra Command's response?" Yuki stood slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. "When," she spoke, her voice carried no emotion whatsoever. "Terra Command has issued its statement. Medical neutrality has been violated. The Hippocratic Oath is suspended for Kithara forces. All Mercy Corps personnel are returning to human space immediately. The chamber erupted in confusion. Ambassador Kethvar's crystalline form shimmered with disbelief. "That's it? No demands. For justice, no calls for sanctions, your people were murdered." "The statement is complete," Yuki replied, sitting back down. In the observer gallery, Elder Ambassador Quinn of the Altarian Republic felt his ancient blood turn cold. His aide, a young diplomat named Telamorn, leaned close. "Elder, surely humans will want vengeance." Quinn's weathered features darkened. "Child, I have lived for 3 centuries. I have seen humans angry before. They shout, they make demands, they threaten. But this—" he gestured toward the silent human delegation. "This terrifies me." "I don't understand," Telamorn whispered. "I was present during the Hegemony War, 70 years ago." Quinn's voice dropped to barely audible. "The Krexthari Empire thought humans were weak because they spent so much time helping others. They enslaved 3 human colonies, used the population for genetic experiments." The young aide's skin paled. "What happened?" "The humans went quiet. Just like this. Within 6 months, the Krexthari Empire simply ceased to exist. Not conquered, not defeated, gone. Every world they controlled was empty. Their fleets found drifting in space, crews mysteriously dead. To this day, no one knows exactly what the humans did." Quinn's ancient eyes fixed on the human delegation. When humans go quiet, entire species disappear. Across the galaxy, the recall order went out on encrypted channels. Every human medical facility, from the smallest field hospital to the massive trauma centers, received the same message. Within hours, hospital ships that had served for decades in the most dangerous sectors began powering down their equipment. On the medical station, Sanctuary's Grace, in the Outer Rim, Dr. Insu Park received the recall order while treating victims of a mining accident. The Thrakarian miners watched in confusion as the human medical staff began packing their equipment with mechanical efficiency. "Doctor, what about the injured?" asked Foreman Gralthar, his rocky carapace glistening with concern. "Other species will have to handle their own medical needs now," Dr. Park replied, his voice flat and emotionless. "The Kithara have made their position clear. Medical neutrality no longer exists." Similar scenes played out across hundreds of locations. The massive hospital ship, Healing Hand, treating plague victims in the Sagittarius Arm, powered up its engines and began its journey back to human space. The orbital medical platform, Life's Harbor, abandoned its position near the war-torn Kepler system, leaving thousands of wounded fighters from various species without advanced medical care. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as the human medical infrastructure simply vanished. News reports tracked the movements of the great white hospital ships as they formed convoys and disappeared into hyperspace. For the first time in over a century, regions that had depended on human medical expertise were left to fend for themselves. None. The Kithara homeworld of Vexmelik, Admiral Vextar stood before the Dominion Council, his multiple arms spread wide in triumph. "The soft humans have proven our point. They run when faced with true strength. The galaxy will see that mercy is weakness." But war leader Ketvar, eldest of the Kithara military caste, felt uneasy. "Admiral, our intelligence reports suggest the humans have mobilized their entire fleet, not their medical vessels, their war fleets." "Impossible," Vextar scoffed. "Humans don't have war fleets. They have patrol boats and escort ships. Their entire military is designed for peacekeeping." "The reports are confirmed," Ketvar insisted. "Every human military vessel in the galaxy is moving toward the Sol system. They're consolidating forces." Back on Earth, Terra Command headquarters hummed with activity, but it was the quiet efficiency of professionals at work. Admiral Nara Choi stood in the Central Command Center, watching displays that showed the positions of every human vessel in known space. "Recall complete in 72 hours, reported her aide, Captain Taemin Song. "All medical personnel have been evacuated from non-human space." "Excellent," Admiral Choi replied. "Phase 2 begins immediately. Signal the medical colleges. We're implementing the Hippocrates Protocol." The Hippocrates Protocol was a theoretical framework that existed only in the deepest classified files of human military archives. It had been developed by military medical researchers decades ago, but never implemented. The protocol was based on a simple principle: if you understand how to heal, you understand how to harm with surgical precision. In medical schools across human space, professors began accessing files that had been sealed for generations. Dr. Yoonji Bae at the Terran Medical Institute pulled up biological data on every known species: genetic structures, metabolic pathways, nervous system configurations, reproductive cycles. Information that had been gathered for healing purposes over centuries of medical practice. "Students," she announced to her advanced xenobiology class, "we are suspending the Hippocratic Oath for Kithara forces. Today we begin studying how to unmake what we have learned to heal." The galaxy continued to watch as the great human hospital ships made their way home, their white hulls gleaming against the stars. To most observers, it looked like retreat, like surrender. But the older, wiser species remembered the stories. They remembered what happened when humans went quiet. In the depths of space, the convoy of medical ships maintained perfect formation, their external lights dimmed, their communications silent. Inside, 3,000 of the galaxy's most skilled medical professionals began their transformation from healers into something far more dangerous: beings who understood life so completely that they could end it with terrifying efficiency. The quiet fury of humanity had begun. 6 weeks after the massacre, the Kithara patrol fleet Crimson Talon was conducting routine sweeps near the former location of Medical Station Healing Light. The debris field had mostly dispersed, leaving only scattered fragments as a reminder of the destruction. Fleet Commander Yexkoth felt satisfied as he reviewed the tactical displays. No human vessels had been detected in this sector since the attack. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, mandibles clicking nervously. "Single vessel approaching from hyperspace. It's one of theirs." On the main screen, a familiar white hull emerged from the swirling vortex of hyperspace. The Hippocrates, the same escort ship that had tried to defend the medical station, drifted slowly toward the Kithara fleet. Its weapons were powered down, and it transmitted standard medical identification codes. "Fools," Yexkoth snarled. "They returned to the scene of their defeat. Charge weapons. We'll finish what Admiral Vexitar started." But something was different about the approaching ship. Where once it had borne the Red Cross medical symbol, new markings adorned its hull, a black scythe crossed with a medical caduceus. The ship's registration had changed from Medical Corps to something else entirely. Captain Seok Jang appeared on the communication screen, but his expression had transformed. Gone was the jovial demeanor of a peacekeeping officer. His eyes held the cold calculation of a predator. Behind him, the bridge crew wore black uniforms instead of their usual white medical attire. "Kithara Fleet," Seok's voice was eerily calm. "This is Captain Jang of the Reaper vessel Hippocrates. We're here to provide medical assistance." Yexkoth's multiple arms tensed. "Medical assistance. We need no help from human weaklings. Surrender or be destroyed." "Oh, you misunderstand," Seok replied, a thin smile crossing his face. "We're not here to heal you. We're here to demonstrate what we learned while healing you." The bridge of the Hippocrates had been transformed. Where medical displays once showed patient vitals, now they showed detailed biological scans of the Kithara vessels. Dr. Hana Kim's sister, Colonel Nari Kim, stepped into view wearing the black uniform of the newly formed Reaper Corps. Her medical insignia had been replaced with the symbol of a scythe. "Medical training complete," she announced to her bridge crew. "All Kithara biological markers confirmed. Deploying countermeasures." The Hippocrates launched what appeared to be standard medical supply pods toward the Kithara fleet. But these containers held something far deadlier than healing supplies. As they approached the enemy ships, they burst open, releasing clouds of microscopic particles that clung to the Kithara hulls and began seeping through their ventilation systems. "What are those things?" Yexkoth demanded as his crew scrambled to analyze the approaching particles. "Bio-nanites," Colonel Kim explained over the open channel, her voice carrying the clinical detachment of a doctor delivering a diagnosis. "Specifically, designed for Kithara physiology." You see, we spent decades studying your species biology to better treat your wounded. We know your genetic structure, your metabolic pathways, your nervous system architecture. The first Kithara crew member to be affected was the sensor operator. His grey skin began to change color as the nanites interfaced with his nervous system. Instead of causing pain, they simply shut down specific neural pathways, the ones controlling voluntary muscle movement. We could have made them painful, Dr. Kim continued, watching the readings on her screen. But we took an oath to do no harm, so instead we designed them to be completely painless. You simply stop. Throughout the Kithara fleet, crews began collapsing at their stations. Not dead, but completely paralyzed. The nanites were programmed with intimate knowledge of Kithara biology, knowledge gained from treating thousands of their wounded over the years. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every biological system had been catalogued and studied. Impossible, Yexkoth gasped as his own limbs began to fail him. You're healers. You save lives. We were healers, Colonel Kim corrected. Then you taught us that mercy is a luxury we can no longer afford. Every species we've treated, every patient we've healed, every biological system we've studied, all of that knowledge is now weapon data. The truth began to spread across the galaxy through intercepted communications. The human medical corps hadn't disappeared, they had transformed. Every doctor, every nurse, every medical technician had undergone rapid military training. But their most deadly weapons weren't plasma cannons or quantum torpedoes. Their weapons were their minds, filled with centuries of accumulated knowledge about how life worked. On Earth, the transformation centers hummed with activity. Dr. Junho Nam, formerly head of pediatric surgery at Lunar General Hospital, now stood before a holographic display showing the nervous system of a Zentari soldier. But instead of learning how to repair damaged neural pathways, he was learning how to target them. The Zentari nervous system has a unique vulnerability here, he explained, to his class of former medical professionals. A precisely targeted electromagnetic pulse at this frequency will cause complete sensory shutdown without permanent damage. Effective, humane, and completely incapacitating. Dr. Sujin Lee, who had spent 20 years treating Altarian refugees, now worked with geneticists to understand their crystalline-based physiology. Altarians depend on harmonic frequencies to maintain cellular cohesion, she noted. Disrupt the frequency, and their bodies literally fall apart at the molecular level. Again, painless but absolute. The galaxy's intelligence networks began intercepting communications from human space that revealed the scope of the transformation. Every medical school had become a military academy. Every hospital had been converted into a research facility. The same compassion that had driven humans to learn about alien biology now drove them to weaponize that knowledge. Admiral Vextar received the reports on his flagship with growing unease. How many species have they treated over the years? He demanded of his intelligence chief. Every known sapient species in the galaxy, sir. Some for over a century. They have complete biological profiles on all of us. The Reaper Corps wasn't just the former medical personnel. As word spread, human civilians began volunteering for the new military branch. Xenobiologists, geneticists, even veterinarians brought their knowledge to bear. Anyone who understood how alien life functioned could contribute to humanity's new doctrine of warfare. Dr. Minji, formerly a gentle pediatric specialist, now commanded a research team developing species-specific biological agents. The beauty of medical knowledge, she explained to her team, is that it's scalable. What works on one Kithara works on all Kithara. What paralyzes one Gorlakian will paralyze their entire species. Back in the debris field, the Kithara fleet drifted helplessly, their crews conscious but completely unable to move. The Hippocrates moved through the disabled ships like a predator, scanning for survivors and cataloging the effectiveness of their new weapons. Fleet Commander Yexkoth, Captain Zhang's voice came over the communication system. You can hear me, can't you? Good. I want you to understand something. We didn't stop being doctors. We just expanded our practice. Before we healed the sick, now we heal the galaxy of those who would harm the innocent. The paralyzed Kithara commander could only listen as his fleet was systematically disabled, his crews reduced to helpless observers of their own defeat. Your Admiral Vextar wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about strength, Colonel Kim added. Consider this our reply. The same hands that once saved your lives now hold the power to end them. We know you better than you know yourselves. As news of the encounter spread across the galaxy, a new understanding emerged. The humans hadn't retreated. They had evolved. The Reapers weren't a separate military force. They were the same compassionate healers who had once saved lives across the stars, now applying their intimate knowledge of life to become the most efficient killers the galaxy had ever seen. The assault on the Kythera Dominion began not with massive fleets or thundering weapons, but with a single medical transport ship dropping out of hyperspace near their outer colonies. The vessel, Gentle Mercy, appeared to be a standard humanitarian relief ship, broadcasting emergency medical codes and requesting permission to treat plague victims on the mining world of Kethtar 7. Governor Hixlan watched from his orbital command station as the white ship approached. "Sir," his aide whispered nervously, "intelligence reports suggest all human medical vessels have been converted to military use." "Nonsense," Hixlan snarled, his grey skin rippling with confidence. "It's a single ship against our entire defense fleet. What could one medical vessel possibly do?" Dr. Tae Min stood on the bridge of Gentle Mercy, his former pediatric surgeon's coat replaced by the black uniform of the Reaper Corps. The same gentle hands that had once saved countless young lives now worked with deadly precision at his command console. Behind him, his team of former medical professionals prepared their equipment. Not surgical tools this time, but deployment canisters filled with microscopic agents. "Beginning atmospheric seeding," announced Dr. Kira Bay, his former anesthesiologist, who now served as biological weapons specialist. Pathogen cloud dispersing across the colony, the invisible death drifted down through Kethtar 7's atmosphere like morning mist. The Kythara colonists went about their daily routines, completely unaware that they were breathing in their doom. The nanites were specifically designed to target Kythara respiratory systems, learned from decades of treating their lung diseases and breathing disorders. Within hours, the entire population of 40,000 Kythara simply fell asleep and never woke up. Not painful, not violent. They simply lay down where they stood and died peacefully in their sleep. The orbital defense platforms, manned entirely by Kythara crew, went silent one by one as their operators succumbed to the pathogen. "Colony secured," Dr. Min reported to the Reaper Command. "0 human casualties, Kythara population neutralized, moving to next target." This pattern repeated across 12 Kythara worlds in the first week. The humans didn't conquer planets. They sterilized them with surgical precision. Each world faced a different biological agent, tailored specifically to Kythara physiology based on medical knowledge accumulated over generations. On Vexmalik Prime, the Kythara homeworld, Admiral Vextar paced frantically in his war room. The holographic display showed red markers spreading across his empire like a plague. World after world went dark, their populations simply vanishing without a fight. "How is this possible?" he roared at his assembled staff. "Our intelligence said humans had no military fleet, no armies, no weapons of mass destruction." War leader Ketvar, now the only surviving member of the original military council, spoke with grim realization. "They didn't need armies, Admiral. They had something more dangerous, complete biological profiles of our entire species." The truth was devastating in its simplicity. For over a century, humans had treated Kythara wounded, studied their diseases, mapped their genetic code, and learned every vulnerability of their physiology. What had been gathered for healing was now being used for extermination. Dr. Hyarin Park, formerly Chief of Infectious Disease Research at Proxima General Hospital, coordinated the biological assault from her command ship, Final Diagnosis. Her screens showed the genetic weaknesses of every Kythera subgroup: the warrior caste with their enhanced immune systems, the worker caste with their modified respiratory organs, the ruling caste with their extended lifespans. "Deploy Agent Hippocrates 7. To the military installations," she ordered her team. "It's specifically designed to target the warrior caste genetic modifications. Their enhanced immune systems will actually accelerate the pathogen's effects. The Kythera military, bred for combat and enhanced with genetic modifications, discovered that their very strengths had become weaknesses. The humans had studied these modifications while treating wounded soldiers and now turned that knowledge into targeted weapons. On the fortress world of Kixneth, General Morgath watched his entire army of 50,000 warriors collapse within minutes of exposure. The same genetic enhancements that made them stronger and faster also made them vulnerable to the human-designed pathogen. Impossible, he gasped as his own enhanced physiology began to fail. We are the strongest species in the galaxy. Not anymore, came the reply over his communication system. Dr. Sung-Ho Lee, formerly a trauma surgeon, now commanded the assault on military targets. Your strength comes from genetic modifications. We studied those modifications for decades while treating your wounded. Every enhancement you possess, we understand completely. By day 20, half the Kythera Dominion had fallen silent. The humans moved through space, not as conquerors but as sanitizers, cleaning out populations with the same methodical precision they had once used to save lives. Their ships maintained the white color of medical vessels, but now bore the black scythe symbol of the Reaper Corps. Admiral Vextar's flagship, Crimson Dominance, fled toward the edge of Kythera space, carrying the last remnants of their once mighty fleet, but the humans were waiting. Dr. Jin Hoko, commanding the medical cruiser Hippocratic Oath, intercepted them with a small escort fleet. Admiral Vextar, Dr. Ko's voice crackled over the communication channel. This is Dr. Jin Hoko, formerly head of cardiac surgery at Centauri Medical Center. I've performed over 3,000 operations on Kythera hearts. I know exactly how your cardiovascular system works. The Crimson Dominance launched its full arsenal: plasma torpedoes, quantum disruptors, antimatter missiles. The human ships absorbed the assault with their medical-grade shielding, originally designed to protect hospital ships from debris fields, but equally effective against weapons fire. Deploying cardiac-specific nanites, Dr. Ko announced calmly, as his ship released clouds of microscopic agents. These will cause systematic cardiac failure across your entire crew. Death will occur in approximately 17 minutes, painless but inevitable. Admiral Vextar felt his own heart beginning to flutter irregularly as the nanites entered his bloodstream through the ship's compromised air filtration system. His final transmission was broadcasted across the galaxy, his voice breaking with terror and confusion. How is this possible? They don't just kill us, they know exactly how to make us suffer first. How did healers become such efficient killers? We are warriors, we are strength incarnate. How can doctors defeat us? The answer came from Dr. Min over the open channel, his voice carrying the same gentle tone he had once used with frightened children. Because we understand you better than you understand yourselves. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every neural impulse, we studied it all to save your lives. Now we use that same knowledge to end them. The last Kythera fleet surrendered on day 37, their crews paralyzed but alive, drifting helplessly in space as human medical ships moved in to secure the vessels. The dominion that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was ended not by superior weapons or tactical brilliance, but by beings who understood life so completely they could unmake it with surgical precision. 3 months later, the galaxy watched as Dr. Jiwon-Oh stood at the dedication ceremony for the new medical station New Light, built in the exact location where Healing Light had been destroyed. She wore the traditional white coat of the medical corps, but the black scythe pin on her collar served as a reminder of what lay beneath humanity's compassion. The Mercy Corps is re-established, she announced to representatives from across the galaxy. We will once again heal the sick, treat the wounded, and preserve life wherever we find it. But let all species understand, harm those who heal, and face those who know exactly how to ensure you never heal again. The assembled aliens, Altarians, Zentari, Gorlakians, and dozens of other species, looked at the humans with a mixture of gratitude and terror. They had witnessed the complete obliteration of a galactic power in 37 days, accomplished not through brute force, but through the careful application of medical knowledge turned weapon. Elder Ambassador Quinn of the Altarian Republic spoke for many when he whispered to his aide, "The galaxy has learned a terrible truth. Humanity's greatest strength was never their compassion. It was their complete and absolute understanding of life itself, and those who understand life that completely can end it just as easily." The white ships of the Human Medical Corps once again spread across the galaxy, their holds filled with healing supplies and their crews dedicated to preserving life. But now everyone knew what else those gentle hands could do, and the sight of a human doctor inspired both hope and a deep primal fear. The Kithara Dominion was gone, its people extinct, its worlds empty monuments to the folly of striking at those who heal. And in the silence of space where their empire once ruled, the gentle hum of human medical ships continued their eternal mission to preserve life and to remind the galaxy of the terrible price of threatening those who do. The end.